If you're new here, pause for just 1 second. Hit subscribe, tap like, and stay with me for this story. Not because it's dramatic, not because it's shocking, but because it's real. Every click, every share, every bit of support lets me keep telling stories like this. Stories about families that look normal from the outside. About love that fades quietly. About choices we swear we'd never make until life backs us into a corner. My name is Alicia Andrade, and what I'm about to share isn't easy to say out loud. It's a story about loneliness that grows unnoticed. About silence that screams louder than arguments. About the moment you realize the cracks in your life didn't appear overnight. They formed slowly, patiently, while you were busy surviving. And most of all, it's about one night. One ordinary, forgettable night that changed my family forever. So, please listen closely, because it took me years to face the truth you're about to hear. It was a Friday evening. Not the kind you remember for any special reason. Not the kind you mark on a calendar or look back on with nostalgia. Just one of those painfully ordinary nights that feel exactly like every other one. Dinner, attitude, maybe a TV show before bed, if everyone cooperated. Nothing dramatic, nothing alarming, nothing that warns you your life is about to tilt in a direction you never prepared for. Back then, I was a single mother raising 2 kids on my own. My daughter Elena was 16. She was sharp, intelligent, and stubborn in a way only teenagers can be. Fiercely independent on the outside, but emotionally armored. Like she felt everything too deeply and had learned the safest way to survive was to show nothing at all. My son Jonathan was 12, curious, talkative, gentle. The kind of kid who still asked why superheroes wore capes and whether math would ever matter in real life. From the outside, we looked like a normal family. 3 people, 1 home, shared meals, shared last name. But underneath that picture, there were cracks. Deep ones. Cracks I didn't want to see. Cracks I didn't have the energy to fix. Cracks I convinced myself were normal. And that night, those cracks finally split wide open. We were sitting at the dinner table together. At least physically. Emotionally, we might as well have been in separate worlds. Elena was anywhere but here. Jonathan poked at his pasta, twisting noodles around his fork like it might suddenly explain itself. "Mom," he asked, squinting at his plate, "why does pasta taste different every time you make it?" I forced a smile. "The kind you practice in the mirror." "It's improvisation," I said. He shrugged, unimpressed. Elena rolled her eyes and muttered something under her breath. I didn't catch the words, but I felt them. Sharp, dismissive, heavy. Within seconds, they were bickering. Not playful sibling teasing, not harmless back and forth. This was irritated, tense, exhausting. Their chaos, and I sat there. Present in body, absent in every other way. Bills were piling up. Work felt like a constant uphill battle. My divorce echoed through my life like a wound that refused to close. And somewhere along the way, I had started to feel invisible in my own home. So, I reached for my phone. Not because I needed it, but because the silence inside my head was louder than the noise around me. And that's when it hit me. We weren't a family having dinner anymore. We were 3 strangers sharing a table, eating the same food, breathing the same air, living in completely different emotional worlds. That realization cut deeper than I expected. After dinner, things only got worse. Jonathan and Elena started arguing over something trivial. The best spot on the couch. Voices rose. Accusations flew. And then I snapped. "Enough," I said, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. "Both of you, stop." Elena froze for half a second, then glared at me like I had personally betrayed her. She stormed off to her room and slammed the door so hard the walls shook. Jonathan sank into the couch, arms crossed, lower lip trembling in a way he clearly didn't want me to notice. And beneath my frustration was something heavier. Sadness, fear, the quiet realization that I wasn't holding my family together. I was barely holding myself together. Later that night, I tucked Jonathan into bed. He hugged me tighter than usual. Not like a child who felt safe, but like someone clinging to something they sensed was slipping away. I kissed his forehead and walked out of his room feeling like a failure. Not just as a mother, but as a woman, as a human being. Someone who no longer knew where she fit in her own life. I sat alone in the kitchen afterward. The house was finally quiet. The kind of quiet that should feel peaceful, but instead felt suffocating. A half-finished glass of wine sat on the counter. Bills were spread out like accusations. The fridge hummed. The clock ticked. My heartbeat felt too loud. And in that silence, the loneliness I'd been carrying since my divorce finally caught up to me. Carlos, my ex-husband, hadn't always been the man who hurt me. He used to be charming, attentive, the kind of partner you imagine growing old with. But people change. Or maybe they just reveal who they've always been. His betrayal shattered me, shattered our home. It forced me to rebuild myself from pieces of the woman I used to be. And I told myself I had healed. I truly believed that. But sitting there alone that night, I realized the wounds were still open, just hidden beneath routines, responsibilities, and exhaustion. And then my phone buzzed. One notification. One name glowing on the screen. David. My breath caught. He was the one who listened during my darkest days. The one who noticed when I felt invisible. The one who understood silence because he lived in his own. I hadn't spoken to him in months. Why now? Why tonight? Why when I felt weakest? My first instinct was to ignore it, to protect myself. But loneliness is powerful. It pulls you toward anything that feels like warmth. So I answered.